In today's video, 5 new Habs jersey numbers to get to know for next season. Habs may have the steal of the 2022 draft. What might Kirby Dach's contract look like? And I got a short poem about that as well. Paulie Walnuts is a hero. That's Paul Byron. I'll tell you all about it. And the poor Maple Leafs are league's biggest victims. I'll tell you about a delusional story about that. Hey, everybody, I'm Rick. Welcome to Talking Habs, where you get your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge. All right, so it's kind of slow news time, so I think I've got some interesting stuff here for you guys. First bit of news is everybody's waiting for me to get a new computer. Well, not everybody, but some people. It's right there. That's my new computer. Was built yesterday. It'll get in place in the next couple of weeks. I got a few things yet to do. That's my news. Next, we got the 5 player numbers to learn for next season. So number 20, that's I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. Juraj Slafkovsky, Slavzilla, will wear number 20 as expected. It's the number that he wears for the Slovakian national team, so you knew that was the number he was going to take. Chris Weidman, who wore number 20 last year, will now wear number 6, former captain Shea Weber's number. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It kind of feels a little weird. Let me know what you think in the comment section about that. As soon as I heard that, I got this weird feeling. I don't know if I like it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Kirby Dach will wear his number 77 that was worn by Brett Kulak last season. Dach wore 77 with Chicago as well. Mike Matheson will wear number 8, Ben Sherratt's number from last year. He wore number 5 with Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if he did that with Florida as well. But number 5 has been retired for both Boom Boom Geoffrion and Guy Lapointe. So number 5, you won't see that. And then there's number 63. Will be worn by Evgeny Dadonov. He's worn that number his whole career. The last number 63 in Montreal was worn by Matthew Pekka. All right, next story. The steal of the 2022 draft. So this is an article by the hockey writers, Trig Wilson. I like Trig. He's a good writer. I don't know if I agree here completely with him that Montreal has 3 potential steals. I don't know enough about the other 3 guys. But I absolutely agree that they have one in Lane Hutson.
Get it to stay. Oh, what a move.
Hutson is probably the best skater and puck handler in the draft class. And could become the best defenseman to come out of it, especially if he grows that 2 or 3 inches he believes that he will grow. And I, for one, hope he does. So here's what Trig wrote about Hutson just last week. It's an article, I think, from the 19th. I plan to do a more in-depth video on Hutson soon. I've got a couple of really in-depth scouting reports on him. One a little older, one very recent, and I kind of want to do a video about that. I'm excited about this kid. I think this kid could be something a guy that we're going to really love here in Montreal.
Ready, left point Hutson. Lane takes a look, stutter step by one man, moving right out in front, score!
Okay, so this is what Trig had to say about it. Lane Hutson, that's number 1 for him as the steal, and I think he's the one that's going to be a sure thing. Hutson was drafted in the 2nd round, 62nd overall. He's a 5'8" defenseman with great speed and agility. His skating and puck handling are probably second to none in the entire draft.
First team, Ben Strinden into the right wing corner. Keeps it in for the Lumberjacks until it's laying up.
He also has a high IQ at both ends of the rink and isn't afraid to take on more immense forwards, even with a small frame. And you can see that in some of the clips that are out there. I'm including a few clips here, and you're going to be able to see, this guy's got skill.
This is vintage Lane Hutson there.
He uses his excellent positioning to move players in the direction he wants them to go and has a great knack for taking away shooting lanes. In the offensive zone, his skating and footwork allow him to evade most players, and that's true, and put himself in a good shooting position. He also is an elite passer with a remarkable ability to set his teammates up for scoring chances. Hutson has had success everywhere he has played. Last season, he had 32 points in 27 games for the USNTDP and 63 points in 60 games for the United States under-18 team. He has never let his size be a disadvantage, as he made it known at the draft that he has a condition which has his bones growing slower than his body, meaning he could still grow up to 3 more inches. If he can grow those 3 inches and continue to dominate on both sides of the ice, he could become the best defenseman in the 2022 draft. Hutson will play in the NCAA for Boston University. It says here next season. I've read where it's going to be the season after, which didn't make sense. This makes more sense. So next season, where Canadiens general manager GM Kent Hughes can keep a close eye on him. So
Lane Hutson on it. He'll make something happen. Thought about dropping it. He'll take it in deep and go right to the rack. Hutson out in front, got the shot.
Hutson is a huge talent. As you can see by the clips that I've used here, Hutson is dripping with talent. Developed properly, and if that few inches happens, Hutson could be the steal of the draft, not just a steal of the draft. I've got a good feeling about this kid. I think Montreal made a few good picks there in the draft, but look out for this kid the same way we did last year. Was it last year or the year before with Sean Farrell? And the same way with Cole Caulfield. Some of the stuff I read there, if you could think back on Cole Caulfield, Sean Farrell, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of character. They don't let it get them down. He's the same way. He's got the talent. He just needs a little bit more size to be dominant even. Cale Makar, I think, is 5'10 or 5'11. I mean, this kid could be that size. All right. What might Kirby Dach's first Habs contract look like? So we know that Montreal's kind of up against the cap, and Kirby Dach needs to be signed. He's an RFA. There's talk out there about the numbers. So there is an article, and this one's by another hockey writer that I like, comparing. Anyway, I'll get to that. I wrote a poem about it first. Just basically that. It's very short. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll go over the article. We traded Alex Romy and got a 13th pick back. Flipped that to Chicago, and we got Kirby Dach. He's an RFA and needs to sign a deal. If he reaches his potential, wow, what a steal. He can slot in at 2C, right behind Nick. Those two down the middle, wouldn't that be sick? My voice. I know there are Habs fans out there that think Dach can't adjust, but he's only 21, a little young to call a bust. So what should the Habs pay him? And exactly for how long? They need to get this right. Can't afford to get this wrong. Can't afford to overpay him or give him 8 years. Let's get real. It's better for both parties to sign a 2-year bridge deal. 2 years to prove he's ready. 2 years to earn his spot. 2 years to show he's willing to give it everything he's got. So what should that cost them to get Dach through this time? I think $2.5 million per, and not another dime. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Okay, so here's the article by Blaine. Let me get that set up. So Kirby Dach's contract comparables. So like I said, he talks about comparables for what the contract could be, to figure out Dach's contract. So for this video, though, I'm only interested in his conclusion. But I'll tell you who Blaine used for this comparison. You're going to laugh at the first one. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, his contract with Carolina, $4.82 million AAV times 8 years. I think that's a comparison to say that's too much. You don't want to go there. Casey Middlestat, and I don't know where Casey, I didn't write down his team. I think Buffalo, but I don't know if he's still there. His bridge deal of $2.5 million AAV times 3 years. That's close to what I said there. And Nolan Patrick's 1 year, $875,000 deal, signed with Philly, and so they could trade him to Vegas, and now he's with Vegas. You know, that's obviously also a prove yourself kind of deal. So here is Blaine's conclusion on the Dach contract. It's just short. That's all there is. Looking at the comparables above, 2 of which were top 10 draft picks dealing with injuries, there's a window from $875,000 to $2.5 million. For Dach, joining a new franchise and having the underlying metrics that he has shows that he can have a breakout year and reach his potential in the right environment. That hope, yet uncertainty, will lead to a bridge deal being selected instead of a long-term one. It could also lead to matching the cap hit in the middle stat range. So Canadiens fans shouldn't be surprised if the money goes slightly higher due to the tax differences. However, a possible deal could see Dach sign to a 2-year, $2.5 to $2.75 million contract. I mean, you know, if I got it wrong in the poem 2.5, I can understand going a little higher. Like he said, for the taxes, they do that. I think that's where he's going to come in, about 2 years. And because in 2 years, they'll have the money to re-sign him. So, you know, if he's proven himself, they'll sign him to a long-term deal. That's what I think it'll happen, how it'll happen. So I'm going to say, I'll read you what I wrote, even though I just said everything. I think he signs 2 years, 2.5 million AAV. Once he proves himself, they can sign him long-term. And then he'll still only be 23 or 24. So the kid's still really young. So this is like a great situation. The kid's got talent. Can it come out next year and the years after? We'll see. Next story, Paul Byron, Polly Walnuts. So Paul Byron did some hero work this weekend when he helped rescue the pilot of a seaplane that had crashed in Lac des Sables in the Laurentians. Byron and his brother-in-law, Neil LeBlanc, I think his name is, and another man on a jet ski, Serge, I don't know Serge's last name, but we'll hear it in a sec. Got the pilot out. Here is the story, and then there's a statement by Polly Walnuts that he released this morning. This is just short, just this one thing. So Montreal Canadiens player Paul Byron took part in a rescue of a man who crashed a seaplane in the Laurentians Saturday morning. The Habs forward was on a fishing trip in Lac des Sables in Notre-Dame-de-Laus when the plane came down, according to a report from Réseau des Sports, that's RDS. A man named Serge Lebel, that's the guy that was on the jet ski, was also nearby on a jet ski. See, he was the first to reach the plane, with Byron and his brother-in-law, Neil LeBlanc, arriving shortly afterward. The group retrieved the pilot and brought him to shore to await first responders, who were called around 11:15 a.m. Paul Byron confirmed the events to RDS, but preferred not to comment out of respect for the pilot. This guy's just a stand-up guy. According to provincial police, the SQ, the pilot, who was alone on board, suffered injuries but was conscious and breathing before he was transported to hospital. They're investigating, blah, blah, blah. Jeff Molson pulled a man from a crash plane in Lake Massawippi near North Hatley in 2020, so not the first time. So the story out on Twitter, if you saw it, says, you know, he's the hero, he's the hero. Now he says, and he released it in French and English, and I think that's pretty cool. I want everyone to know it was Serge Lebel who rescued the pilot and should be recognized for his heroic actions. My father-in-law, brother-in-law, friend, and I assisted in the rescue, as well as many incredible others on the shore. Serge is the hero. Thank you, everyone, for the kind messages. I want to wish the pilot all the best in his recovery. I mean, that's just a stand-up guy. You know, just saying, I'm not the hero, it's the other guy. So Polly Walnuts, Paul Byron, thumbs up to you. Great guy, and I hope they can keep you around. I don't know if they can, but I hope they can. I think he's a great teammate, and must be a great guy in the locker room, I think, if you ask me. Now, I'm at the last story. It's going to take a few minutes. It's written by a completely delusional writer, also on the Hockey Writers. I like the Hockey Writers. I don't like this guy's writing. Who writes about Columbus Blue Jackets mostly, but is obviously a total Leafs apologist. It's called, you'll know from this, Maple Leafs Victimized Most by a Flat Cap World. And here is, and I wrote it down here so I like the group of overlays. Leafs as victims, LOL, because it's kind of funny. Maple Leafs Victimized Most by Flat Cap World by Mark Scheig. When the pandemic struck the NHL, I'm going to read this all to you. We knew that there was would be lasting ramifications felt by everyone. But now, in looking back, no team has felt those ramifications more than a flat cap from a flat cap standpoint than the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm about to cry. What was once thought to be a good plan fell on hard times. While the Maple Leafs plan could still work eventually, we now have a partial explanation as to why things haven't worked out yet. Really, there are the things the Maple Leafs could control, but then there are the things out of their control. When both parties go south at the same time, it leads to disaster, and it's called risk. It's called risk. Take the risk, and you take a risk. Anyway, we'll get more into that. Ugly flat cap. Every NHL team is impacted by the flat cap. Of course they are. When the pandemic happened, everyone took a financial hit. This led to the having to go with a flat cap since the end of the 2019-20 season. It's important to understand just how impactful the flat cap has been while this, we don't know. While this has impacted everyone to varying degrees, it's fair to say it has impacted the Maple Leafs the most. Bullshit. While they couldn't control the conditions of the world, they still made a decision on several contracts in short order. Let's take a look at when the Maple Leafs Core 4 signed, and then let's look at the cap hit and percentage of that time. At that time of signing, you'll see management made a basic assumption when signing these deals. They took a risk and they lost. Austin Matthews signed a 5-year deal on February 5th, 2019. The AAV was adjusted to 11.64. At this time, this accounted for 14.64 of the $79.5 million upper limit. Tavares signed a 7-year deal on July 1st, 2018, $11 million AAV. At the time, this accounted for 13.84 of the percent of the 79.5 upper limit. Mitch Marner signed a 6-year deal on September 13, 2019. The AAV was adjusted to 10.9. At the time, this accounted for 13.38 of the 79.5 million upper limit. William Nylander, Willie Stiles signed a 6-year deal on December 1st, 2018. Was it 2018? I think 2019. The AAV after the first season was 6.9. At the time, this accounted for 8.76% of the cap. The Maple Leafs had a unique opportunity to lock in key offensive players for several years. While it was risky, key word here, risky decision, they made these signings with future cap growth in mind. I don't care what was in mind. It was risky, except for one thing. Thanks to the pandemic and the flat cap, that growth didn't happen as expected. To understand the impact of the flat cap, one just needs to look at the last 10 seasons of cap data. In 2013-14, season salary cap was $64.3 million, and every season since it is, I don't know what he said. The cap grew. Sorry, my reading was bad there. In some seasons, when the option of the full escalator was taken, the cap experienced significant growth. Look at when the cap figures. Look at what the cap figures were over that time. You see, it goes from 64.3 up to the current 82.5. In some in small increases, some in bigger ones. It goes up. Sure, we know, everyone knows that. We are finally starting to see some signs of normalcy. For the first time in 3 seasons, there will be an increase in the cap. Yeah, 1 million. It's not much different than, it's not much. As we continue to return to normal and revenues start to catch up, we'll start seeing cap numbers increase at a more rapid rate. Like, this is like cap, I don't know, 101. Like, so back to the Maple Leafs now. Look at the dates that the Core 4 signed on. All 4 happened between July 18 and September 19, 2019. That's just 14 months. The pandemic stopped the NHL season in March 2020, or just 6 months after Marner's contract was signed. Maple Leafs invested over 50% in their cap at the time into 4 players, and that was freaking stupid. You forgot to write that. It was a bold strategy, to say the least. Bold. Yeah, that's the way you put it, I guess. But at least Kyle Dubas and management expected the cap to continue to climb at the rate it was going at. There was no reason to think it would just stop, except it did. That's where the issue really started to spiral out of control. When you're a cap team, you carry more risk. Injuries happen. Things that stop revenue happen. Because the Maple Leafs were trying to plan ahead and it didn't work out as expected, they found themselves in a huge bind, having to adjust on the fly to an unplanned situation. I still don't see where they're a victim. I'm waiting. The extra cap room the Maple Leafs thought would be there was now gone. You wonder why they had to sign players at minimum over this time, because they're idiots. Part of it is the flat cap. Instead of having $6 million or more extra to spend, they had to operate out of the same budget. Duh. As a result, good players they could have kept moved on. Nazem Kadri comes to mind. Zach Hyman comes to mind. Ilya Mikheyev and Jack Campbell fall into this category as well. Like other teams, like that hasn't happened to other teams. The goaltending that has been an ongoing issue of late could have potentially been solved had the cap grown at the expected rate. But alas, the Maple Leafs had to make a retained salary trade to land Matt Murray that saved them $400,000. Had there been a few extra million available, we could be talking about a Campbell extension. No, this is a lie. This is a flat-out lie. They're paying 4.6 something for Murray. Jack Campbell signed for $5 million. It's not much of a difference. This is a lie. Given the less than ideal circumstances, the Maple Leafs have been trying to walk the tightrope in keeping cap compliant. They had to gamble on some contracts. They had to pass on other opportunities because they couldn't afford it. I mean, they just couldn't sign the right kind of players. They made bad decisions. The Murray trade is a risky gamble and another bad decision. In the Maple Leafs site, they felt it was the best situation to try to pursue, knowing that their cap space was limited. To save $350,000, I think I'd rather have Jack Campbell with that extra $350,000. Their season will depend on how this ends up. It didn't have to be this way. No, it didn't. We could have not had COVID. While it is unfair to pin all of the blame on the Maple Leafs, especially due to the pandemic, it is more than fair to question whether they should have laid more than half their cap on 4 offensive players. Like he's getting it, and then he doesn't. Had they decided to go in a different direction, they would have been more prepared for the unexpected shutdown. Since then, the Maple Leafs have been chasing answers in the offseason. Like maybe fire your GM and president, and you might have new answers. They're doing what they can to make good decisions given their circumstances. Okay. Matt Murray, that was a good decision. While some decisions have been good, other ones have not. Right. Maple Leafs have 2 shots at this left under Matthews' current contract till he bolts for the States. They must make it work. Otherwise, by the time the cap starts returning to normal growth levels, we might see a much different looking team on the ice. Yeah, a rebuilding team. If the Maple Leafs can't get out of the first round again, they won't, because they won't get into the first round this year. Change will happen. This change will have happened in part due to their own decision-making. Right, you're getting it. And in part due to what the flat cap world caused. I mean, that's kind of right, but not that it paints them as victims. The Maple Leafs plan depended on a normal rising cap. So did everybody else's bloody plan. That's why there is no question they've been the biggest victim of the flat cap world. I question it. Absolutely, I do. So it's delusional. And it's just delusional. The only Leafs victims are the Leafs fans. They're the only victims. If you take a huge risk and it doesn't work out for any reason, you're not a victim of anything but your own bad decisions. So that should have been the Leafs are the biggest victim of their own bad decisions. Yes. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, give a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Stay safe out there. Peace out, y'all. And hey, check out that video up there in the corner. I know I'm forgetting something. Yeah, bye, everybody. See you next video. Ciao. If I can find this.